There we go, synced up, and hopefully there's video this time.
Yeah, that was my fault.
Hey, it's okay, Pete. You gotta stop beating yourself up about it.
Yeah,
you have to move on. You know what I mean? You gotta let it go after, you know.
You were talking about a pay cut.
Because
of that,
yeah.
but are you still feeling that I should have a pay cut, or is it all okay?
About it, yeah,
okay,
you can leave us a comment down below if you think Pete should be continue to be financially.
Yes.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fundamentalists podcast. My name is Elliott Morgan. I'm here with Peter Rollins.
He's dressed up for the occasion. I like the way you always treat it very professionally.
Yes.
I mean, I'm saying that I look a bit of a mess, but you make me look...
You always look pretty nice, though. You dress in always like...
Gray and black.
Gray and black, and some white. You're doing it.
Okay, yeah, that's right. That's true.
This isn't even... I'm trying to think of what I'm wearing that I looked at for 2 seconds before putting it on this morning. I'm getting on a plane in a little bit.
Yeah. You're looking very tanned, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Where are you going to? I knew where you're going to, but I'll pretend I don't.
Thank you so much for asking.
Conversation.
I appreciate it.
So where are you going?
Oh, funny you ask. I'm going to Las Vegas.
Wow, your favorite spot.
Quite stoked about it. And we're going to find...
Are you going to play the horse racing game?
You took the words out of my mouth. That's exactly what we're going to do. And I know exactly where those little ponies are.
And you say you've got a system now that's foolproof. Is that right? You feel you've worked it out?
I don't know about that.
Is that right?
It's
something like getting drunk and just...
Yeah, getting drunk and just sort of going. I like the ones.
I like the pretty colors.
Yeah, pretty colors, and you see little toys go around, and then they race each other, and you try to spread your bets out a little bit. It's the stupidest game in the world, and it's great if you're just an adult child. And
there's a great Mitchell and Webb. Have you seen it? A skit where James Bond goes into a casino, but it's all those types of games. Oh, yeah. And he's playing with the big baddie. They're playing Whack the Mole and guess the weight of the fruit cake.
Like carnival games. Yeah, that's awesome. I will definitely check that out. So that's why I'm looking like I'm about to get on a plane if you're watching. And if you are not watching, you're listening, then you're probably aware that we did have an episode go up last week about the meaning of life, whether there is meaning in the universe, just that simple subject. So you can check that out if you would like. You can also continue to check out patreon.com/thefundamentalists as we continue to pop in there and say hi to people. Now, let's dive into the podcast.
The meat of today. This is your topic.
This is my topic.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I don't go life coachy often.
Okay.
All right. I try not to do that. I think people are living incredibly.
I don't know why you don't do that, because your life is such a bastion of health that I would say you'd be able to teach people how to live well.
Yeah. When I go to the doctor and the doctor just looks at me, he's like, "What are you doing?" Like,
how are you still alive?
Yeah. Like, you're doing this to yourself. You stop your behavior. So, but I fancy myself, motivational speaker, I guess you could say.
Yes.
And I'm going to motivate people on this particular episode. It's called Don't Be Present, okay? There's a lot of propaganda out there from a lot of different sources that will continuously tell you that in order to find some sense of peace or tranquility, what you have to do is learn to quote-unquote be present. You have to focus on your breath, breathe in, breathe out. You have to let the thoughts come and go. So you have to practice mindfulness / meditation, vipassana, yoga. No, don't do any of that. Don't do any of that ever. In fact, never. If you start feeling like you're in the present, say you find yourself looking up at the stars and feeling particularly small or particularly insignificant, and it just sort of puts everything in, stop doing that. So here's what we're going to do. Pete's going to explain why you should only look into your past ever. And I'm going to explain why you should only be obsessed with looking into your future. And there's no way we're going to be tongue-in-cheek about this, and there's no way all of these things will be connected in any way by the end.
Very good, very good. I like that. All of those things are things that you quite are partial to?
All the time.
All the time.
Stars and breathing and I
just want someone to hold me and tell me I'm worthless. But you want someone to hold you and tell you you're worthy.
You do want that.
Yep.
I know you want that.
Yes, that's it.
That's why the one fight we got into was when I complimented you that one time.
That's right. Yeah, don't ever do that again. Yeah. So I was thinking about this, right? Because you were saying I like this idea of a critique of presence. As I thought about it, I thought about kind of like a wider critique than just thinking about the past. So I don't know if that's allowed.
Let's do it.
That's allowed. Okay.
Absolutely. It's your podcast.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And yours too. So I'm looking forward to hear what you say about the future.
Thank you so much.
So what I was thinking about when you said about this notion of living in the present that people are very into, especially in Los Angeles. People love this idea of kind of almost like get rid of the past. The past doesn't exist. The future doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is the now. And even people make money or not from meditation, where you maybe look at a tree, and the idea is you get to a point where you don't even think you're looking at a tree, you're just experiencing what is.
Yes, it dissolves.
Yes. And so in philosophy, in German idealism, this is called sense certainty. This is this notion of just sensing and experiencing the world in the moment right now, is, interestingly for Hegel, the lowest level of consciousness. Right. This is the beginning. This is what infants experience. This is what animals experience. And it's where it's almost like there's no subject object. Like there is, like there's a receiver of the data, but you are so caught up in just the certainty of your intuitive experience of the world. And a lot of people, especially in Los Angeles, really, say, through meditation or drug use, kind of try to get you to experience this sense certainty, right? So you take DMT, ayahuasca, sends you into this. But Hegel's point is that it doesn't work. And here's what I liked about this topic, is he says basically there's something that is missing when you experience sense certainty. And what is missing is nothing. The nothingness of the past and the nothingness of the future. Sense certainty, there's temporality. You can only live in the present because it's not the past, it's not yet the future. So there is something about experiencing the now that is infused with temporality. But you're trying to avoid that.
What do you mean?
So you're kind of going like, I'm just experiencing this here now. This here now.
Temporality.
Yeah.
As in you are not in time.
Yes, you're almost experiencing like so if you're on Molly or something or DMT, like temporality disappears. That's why in drugs you don't feel time. Yeah, you're literally, it's before the invention of time. Sense certainty is when you you experience a very primitive form of time. But yeah, you're almost trying to exclude the past and the future, temporality.
Absolutely. Get them out of here.
Get them out of here. But you can't, because the temporality is the only way you experience the present. Because every time you experience the present, it's already gone, right? There's something that's always kind of like playing a part. Now, that's philosophically, we can actually make it into a very simple thing, which is the past is always present, right? And the future is always kind of impinging on your present. So there's something about past and future that is interwoven with the present. But philosophically, that just means that you, by definition, are always being decentered by temporality. And so sense certainty is impossible, but the other thing is it's also unwanted. Hegel would say that the problem is if some people do experience sense certainty, like psychotics do. Can I tell you experience of my friend last week?
Yes, please.
He was in a bus. He has a psychotic kind of structure. He saw somebody look at him, this look made him murderously enraged. He just wanted to destroy this person, just wanted to kill him, right? No, he didn't, thankfully, right? But that's why some psychotic people, they will do things like that.
You gotta watch out.
You gotta watch out for that, yeah. But what happened with him is he basically, it's like the Manchurian Candidate, this movie where they have a trigger word that when you hear it, there's no interpretation, there's no division between you and the world, and you just
light switch,
right? So he had the Manchurian Candidate experience where, just like an animal, like a bird, sees the color red and they just respond with aggression. No symbolic, no interpretation. My friend was momentarily caught up in pure sense certainty, where there was no mediation of language, there was no subject object, there was just this experience of the external world that immediately affected him. And that's dangerous.
For everybody involved. That sounds pretty dangerous. I started though thinking about the other day, we got these hummingbird feeders up.
Oh yeah.
You just open a bird sees red. And the other weekend they drink it and you got to replace it. So like Grace goes to grab it off, and one of the hummingbirds just like almost kamikazes directly into her head, like just like jerks away at the end. And we're getting this impression now that the hummingbirds are getting infuriated with us every time we take away their feeder for a second to refill it. But we find that funny, and so we're going to continue to feed them and make them into the biggest, angriest hummingbirds on the block. And so that's where my head went. But so this person, when they saw this thing, right? There was no explaining it. That was in the present moment, and they just were filled with some kind of rage, but they were self-aware enough of it to be like, or maybe it took them a second to go, oh my God, where'd that come from?
It took them a second. So like, thankfully there's enough like social constraints for most people that he didn't just get up and attack the person. But it even when he was relaying this story to me, the rage he felt. And the funny thing is, right, the look, so there was an interpretive dimension. The look reminded him of an ex-partner who was very cruel to him. And so that look kind of triggered this. But for a neurotic person, they can interpret it. They can say, oh, that look reminded me of such, and that's what made me angry today.
Yeah.
This is like, there's no mediation of language. There's just pure, bam, it's there. Pure certainty, pure response.
And now I'm mad.
Yeah. And so that's an experience, weirdly, of a type of sense certainty. Now, for Hegel, the idea of the pure present is, this is the reason why we evolve out of it, by the way. Like, an infant doesn't stay in pure presence because there is an antagonism within it. And eventually that antagonism collapses into something else, what's called perception. So a lot of people want to get back to sense certainty because there's no anxiety there. There's no sense of division of the world there. There's no sense of time. It feels lovely.
Yeah, it's lovely.
It's lovely, but it can't last. It can't, because by definition, there's something that's excluded from it, and it's the past and the future.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Well, that was lovely, Pete. Wow, you really brought a bunch of stuff this morning.
There you go.
Goodness gracious. I couldn't even put on pants.
Yeah. Well, so you were thinking about it as well in relation to how a subject is always infused with the future and the past. So what?
Well, my basic thought process was coming up with certain types of topics that we can both talk about from slightly different angles. That's not necessarily different, or we're not, basically focusing on one particular thing that we can both have little light critiques of.
Yeah.
That would be what, I was thinking about. I was talking actually about in therapy, and sort of not in therapy, I was talking about therapy with someone about how I don't have a tendency to spend a lot of time focusing on my past. Like, I just don't. I don't.
Too traumatic. Who wants to go into that shit show?
Oh my gosh, can you imagine?
My so-called childhood.
Oh, yeah. We only had one jet ski. It was pretty terrible. But and I had a paddle boat. It was a lovely childhood, and I had, a nice adult experience. And so I don't tend to get super in my head about that stuff. And I tend instead to focus more on the future, and that's what made me think about this sort of thing. But you can't really think about your future either without thinking about your past, and it is all intertwined. But what I have found in my personal experience with this is, for one, most of this is not most of it. I would say a lot of this is tongue-in-cheek in the sense that I'm meditating and being present, and I think it's nice. I think it takes work. I think it takes practice to be able to really, at least for me, maybe it's the neurosis, but like, being able to actually like I can't do it right now to save my life, like to actually be present, but I can do it at night and it helps me fall asleep really well. And I've gotten better at it over time. And it just I find it to be almost like a fun thing to do. It's a little trippy. Like, if I can really get there and be like it's a little nut. It's a weird feeling. It's a nice feeling.
Yeah. But
you're right, because it feels like, especially in certain cultures, like this one, it seems like there's people who are space cadets, and they exit the world, and they walk through life being like, which granted we can all do that sometimes, but like they're not getting into the nitty gritty of actually living their life. Like, I think that there's a level of escapism with this being present stuff that in the end can be a detriment to you. And it doesn't mean you necessarily have to obsess all the time about your past and your future, but it definitely seems like people need to engage with the life that we have, because I don't know if I want to be like 70 years old and be totally at peace with everything and feel like nothing ever affects me because I've, gone on 80 billion meditation retreats. Like, I still want to be like, no, like this, I still want to be pissed off. I mean, I don't want to, beat the guy to death on the bus who looks at me a certain way. Yep. Maybe not that bad, but like, I want to like still feel like there's, like you're fighting for stuff here in this life, and I think it can go too far. It's all in moderation, and basically you can get sucked up into the present moment to the point that it's you miss everything else.
And the thing is, I think it's logically impossible. Like, one of Freud's greatest insights, like genuinely, I think one of his kind of most interesting kind of revelations, was cocaine.
Yeah. That would make you real present.
Yeah, that does, yeah. Was what's called retroactivity, where, and fun, you'll be interested in this as a comedian, because like so many jokes, you could say the structure of comedy is that you're telling a story that people think is going to go one way, but when it gets to the end, you have to reinterpret everything, right?
Yeah.
So like so many quips are, I'm trying to think of one, but it's like basically, you think the comedian is going to say something, and then they twist it into the opposite by you realize that the word he's using, what's
when you say one thing but mean your mother.
Yes, exactly.
Instead of when you say one thing and mean another.
That's true. Or kind of what's got 4 legs, 16 balls, and if it falls from a tree, it'll kill you, like a snooker table. You're going, okay, nice. Those legs and balls. You're thinking of legs and balls, and as in legs and human balls.
Well, it's black and white and red all over.
That's right.
Okay, got it.
Exactly.
We figured it out.
Yeah.
Let's keep going.
That's good. So,
just say the oldest jokes possible.
So retroactivity for Freud is that a trauma doesn't happen in the present. A trauma is only retroactively created from the future.
Yeah.
So and I've seen this actually when I watch my friends with kids, like you can see an experience or a use of words that maybe are being used around the kid or experiences, but the kid is pre-symbolic. They don't understand this or whatever. But there is a chance that in the future, 5 years down the line, whenever they are creatures of language, retroactively, what happened could become a trauma. So the interesting thing is, Freud's notion of retroactivity is like a sentence where you don't know the meaning until the end. And then the end helps you reinterpret what happened at the beginning of the sentence. Freud's whole thing is you can't live in the present because actually trauma is retroactively created. What happens in the present changes your interpretation of the past, brings certain things into existence that were already there. And so, not only is living in the present not necessarily desirable, it's actually not the way symbolic creatures operate.
Yeah. Maybe that's how come sometimes when people say it too much, I'm like, you're lying. You're not really that. You're not that at peace.
Yeah.
You can't be.
You can't be. I mean, you can do certain things and get into it for a bit, but you'll always have to return to language unless you're just take drugs all the time. And some people do. Some people get addicted to sense certainty. They get addicted to living in that way. But
numbing agents of all shapes and sizes, can damper it, I guess. But then you die, like numbing agents.
Oh, yeah, numbing agents and all of that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, antidepressants, something like, I think antidepressants can be very helpful for people. But I know from my friends, one of my friends is coming off antidepressants at the moment, and he experienced, a bit of a numbing.
Yeah.
That was necessary to kind of like, but he kind of like was also saying this is, this is becoming its own problem.
Yeah.
So
he's becoming a citizen of Numbtown.
Yes. Yeah. And so the trick is, how do we become productively maladapted to the world? So there's maladaption, which is horrible and we don't like, and then there's trying to be completely at one with the world. Or there's productive maladaptation where we enjoy not being at one with the world. And I'm a fan of the third.
Yeah. Well, I'm about to head to Vegas, so if there's any way to be productively maladaptive, I'm pretty sure I'll find it there. Yeah, I mean, look, I still do. You have an ability to correct me if I'm wrong. I think you've said this
You're
before.
wrong.
Okay, thank you.
In general.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
You have a ability to sit and you can just sit.
Yeah. For long periods of
So
time.
that's
weeks, months.
arguably the most terrifying. Yeah, that's I don't know if it's a superpower or what,
Yeah.
but what happens when you're doing that? Would you say that would you equate that to some kind of like meditation, or are you in your own brain literally walking around in your brain just being like, well, I'll think about this now. When Hegel said this one time, like, there's stuff going on in there?
There's usually something going on. Yeah, something going on.
There's like a delay in an answer. I was like, is there anything going on right now?
Is there anything
Are you
going
doing it
on?
right now?
Yeah. But you are right. Like I'm kind of like very naturally reclusive and very naturally kind of like spend time on my own, which sounds like not what you'd expect from what I'm saying. If I'm like, this living in the present thing is actually lower consciousness. It's actually a return to the pre-symbolic.
And meanwhile, you're just in your apartment.
Whereas I quite like it. And, I'm not impartial to certain things that can help you experience that,
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, I think, I think it's productive maladaptation. It's like, there is a piece to embracing chaos.
Yeah.
There's a piece to kind of embracing the lack of peace in the world. That's what I think. And you become more, in fact, like most people, I think, most of us, including myself, are running from the experience of sitting on our own and listening to our own thoughts and experiencing our love and hate, our shame and fear and all of those things that are bubbling all the time. And we want to either escape it through activity or we can try and escape it through drugs. But the best way to escape it is to go into it.
Yeah.
As if like you almost like dwell in it. You kind of like move through it, I guess.
Yeah.
That's why in psychoanalysis you have to talk about your shit. Like if they were just think positive, right? You lie on the couch and the therapist, the analyst is like, no, don't think of anything negative. I want you to say some affirmations about how great life is and how amazing you are. Mm-hmm. If that worked, they would do that. But obviously the analyst does the opposite. They go, so you think you're shit. Why is that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Or my therapist just likes to go,
you are shit.
You are shit. You're not feeling great. You're not, are you think you're doing, is this okay with you? No, I guess not. No, it's not really like that at all. It's fun to imagine like that.
Your therapist, I mean, because you've been seeing him for a long time, a lot of it seems to be, it's almost like kind of interesting conversation you have with him.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a mentor figure, I think. I was listening to a professor of mine who equated the therapeutic process, and I wouldn't extend this probably to tried and true psychoanalysis, but he was like, I like this metaphor. It's like therapy, people act like it's going to an auto mechanic to get things fixed. And you walk in and you're like, I got this going on, this going on, this going on. And he was like, it's really more like music lessons. Like when you walk in to learn the violin, the teacher can't do it for you, but the teacher can tell you how to hold it. Then you have to hold it. And then you play it. And you'll probably play it very badly. And they'll give you a couple notes on maybe how to do something a little bit different. And then the next time you come back in, you still can't play it, but you're a little bit closer, a little bit better. And it's just this ongoing thing.
Very good. I like that. Like, yeah, because that in analysis, the analyst puts themselves in a position where you cultivate a conversation with yourself through the analyst. So yeah, you're the one playing the instrument.
Lovely. Because also out here too, there just seems to be, it's a what's in recent time become one of my favorite words. I don't think I'm using it correctly, but the word shibboleth that you used informed me of back in the day. Therapy's become very much like a thing that you do, so you could say that you're doing it. But then I talk to my friends who are going to see therapists a lot. And I'm like, are you getting, like, how is this going? And they're like, man, it doesn't. I'm like, well, you should go somewhere else. Yeah. In my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're just holding it there as like a thing so that you can say you're doing it, but it's not really doing it. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll meditate on it. Well, any other, I mean, this is a shorter one, but any other kind of ideas around the idea of future and past that you would like to touch on? I personally am future biased and future oriented. I enjoy thinking about the future. Well, less so nowadays because who knows how much longer we're going to be around given the way everything's going. Womp womp. But any thoughts about it?
Yeah, I mean, what I think that, yeah, in theology, they'd call it eschatology, the future and how the future transforms the past and the present. And so, yeah, again, I think that's, how would I say it? How does the future, I mean, we are time travelers, basically. That's what that's what movies are. These time travel movies show, is that actually we don't just live in the present. One of the issues, of course, is the past is always present. That's actually one of the reasons why people go to psychoanalysis, because their past keeps returning, and something from the past keeps happening. In fact, successful analysis is when you can put something from the past into history, when you can make the past history. But also,
when you stop repeating it and living it over and over and over again.
Yeah. And then the future, I think, has a similar dimension to it, which is how we conceptualize the future and how we think about that also tells us something about our present and tells us something about what we're in. So they're all interlinked. And so you can't live in the moment.
It's so trippy. You're making me think about the hard work that historians do and how difficult it must be to really try to conceptualize just human history. And then I imagine works in very similar ways where it's like they're interpreting it, it's going to have an effect on them. The way they interpret it has an effect on the events that happened, which has an effect on what people later understand about it. And it's gone forever. And there's no way to know.
Yeah.
What a crazy job. I've always imagined historians having the most boring jobs in the world, but it's got to be quite a, like, almost art form.
Yeah. That's it, because you're the historian. I mean, you're reflecting on the past, but you're partly creating the past. It's partly a reflection of the present. So history is not just reporting on things that happened. There is a truth to it. It's not relativism.
It's like active.
But it's active. It's an active form of interpreting and corralling information.
So wild.
Yeah. And that corralling of information also tells you something about the present.
Yeah.
So that's almost like the Freudian notion of retroactivity, is again that once you start to learn language and you look back to your pre-symbolic, you start to make sense of it and something becomes a trauma. That's why some people can be triggered at 30 years old, something that happened in their past that never meant anything. And then it kind of like, they give a certain interpretation to this trauma, which is they put language to this event, and it completely throws them.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
You freaked out about the future and Elon Musk's new robots?
Oh yeah, I saw I saw this clip where this robot was dancing. I was like, my God, but it wasn't a robot; it was a guy in the suit. Did you see that? There was an opening, like where he was introducing the robot, but it wasn't the robot, and he said it, but which made it very unimpressive. He basically said, "This is what it's going to be like," and it was dancing.
It was a guy just in the suit.
In the suit, yeah. It wasn't the robot. Did you see that?
I've only seen pictures of it's like the black face, right?
Black
like
face with the white
plastic,
with white plastic.
I mean, it looks like exactly what you would imagine a sci-fi robot to look like, but I didn't know it was just a guy in a suit.
Well, no, the picture you saw was the real one, but when he was introducing it, he got a guy to dance like the robot.
Yeah.
So but when I saw that, I thought that was the robot, and it was very impressive.
And the height is 5'8".
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is there a reason for that?
I have no idea.
So the perfect height.
I'm assuming it's some sort of average.
Or it's not too threatening. It's close to I'm 5'7", so it's
If they made it like 6'2", that would be a bad. That'd be terrifying.
Yeah. And what's it supposed to do? What's I don't know.
I had a feeling you would know more than I.
Oh yeah.
I literally I was like, ugh.
It's funny because Elon Musk has, he has concerns about AI, so it's funny that he's at the forefront of it as well.
Yeah, wasn't there something about how it definitely will have an override option?
Yeah.
I'm like, cool. So that's is that like comforting? Like that you're already having to say that when everyone's first thought is they're going to overtake us.
And I saw there was an Instagram thing. I don't know if it was real or not, but the headline was, I think it was based on reality, but some robot escaped a factory and made it 160 feet before the battery ran out. So I was like, okay, that's good.
That's
if
good.
you can only get 160 feet, we're all right.
We just stay 160 feet away from the robot plants. We should be good. The robot zoos, whatever they're going to end up being.
See, I'm interested in what, right, if I'm right, if presence is impossible.
You're right.
Oh, thank you. But if antagonism is within reality, and we've talked about this before, and last week actually we talked about it, like we are the meaning of life, not there is meaning of life, because the universe has this antagonism,
I felt that way.
as a callback. But if this is right, that then AI will have antagonism built into it. And that's what AI movies are always exploring, which is basically a computer like HAL has two operating things. It has to protect the crew, but it also has to do something that puts them in jeopardy. And this antagonism creates a symptom, and the symptom is closing the pod bay doors, right?
So that Alien? You're talking about Alien?
What's that?
Was that Alien?
That was 2001.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Yeah. But other ones have done as well, like Isaac Asimov, I think, always plays on it, is that a computer has an antagonism, the antagonism develops a symptom, the symptom basically is some violence against humanity.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me, that AI, not that it will be violent against it, but that AI will just have some sort of impossibility hardwired to it, and I'm really interested to see what that's going to look like.
I rented a car when I was in Ohio. I drove from Columbus to Liberty Township, which is like 2.5 hours or something, straight through Ohio, and my rental car had one of those features in it that I've never driven with, where if I went too far to the left, it would just be like, no, you're coming back here.
Feels weird, doesn't it?
It feels super weird, and it kind of made me feel like less safe, because I kind of felt like I was getting like knocked a little bit. But the computer was trying to protect me.
Yeah.
And it was probably doing a fine job, but it would not do that if I turned the turn signals on. So I had to override the computer with the turn signal.
Yeah.
So the turn signal then became not just a symbol that I am just changing lanes for my fellow drivers, but it was also an override system
telling the car
that I have permission to drive the way across the lane.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird.
Yeah.
And it's like a little Toyota. It was like a little tiny thing. It was a Camry.
See, maybe the universe had to create intelligent life so that they could create cars that could then just drive by themselves. So maybe the ultimate kind of endpoint of life is machines without human life. Like our only purpose was to get machines to the point where they could take over themselves. And then once they're doing that, yes, they're going to kill us off, because we were just a stepping stone to what they really wanted, which was to be able to drive themselves. So that's our ultimate purpose.
And like drones and delivering our packages.
So
and stuff.
all of that will keep going. So imagine a world where there's no humans, but still there's drones delivering packages, there's trains running on time, there are cars going to work at 9 and coming home at 5. Maybe that's.
Have you watched the Bo Burnham special yet?
No.
There's a song in it that's really good called "That Funny Feeling." So when you watch it, maybe give it a gander over the weekend, and we can talk about it.
And we could do an episode on it, because somebody did suggest that.
It's really good, yeah.
Because I drove a Tesla and the same thing, and I did the self-driving, and it felt very unnatural. Has a very unhuman experience of driving. Yeah, I didn't like it at all. I think you have to do it a few times to get used to it.
Yeah.
But I had to override it. There was one point where it beeped at me because it started going into the verge. I was like, yeah.
Stop.
Yeah. It was not as relaxing as I thought it was going to be.
I do like the brake before you're too close to the car in front of you feature, but even that, it's all very trippy, and this is just the beginning, so we'll see what happens. And that's just normal cars. Like the Teslas are insane. So
yeah,
one day I just got a Volvo because I thought it was the safest thing in the world, and they've just been not true anymore. They've been leaps and bounds ahead now with all the bells and whistles, all these safety features. It's unbelievable. No one cares about this part of the conversation. Guys, thank you so much for listening. All
right, well, any takeaways about living in the present, right? Eckhart Tolle, you live in the now.
Hey,
just be...
I absolutely have a takeaway. I think it's excellent. Okay. I think just like anything else, it is a wonderful thing to do if you are under an immense amount of anxiety. You can't get your head straight. You don't know what's going on. Take some moment, get present, center yourself. Does not need to be a lifestyle that allows you to stay away from the internal traumas of both the past and the future.
Yes, that's very good. And my takeaway is that we are creatures that are within the past, present, and future. You can't, they're all intertwined and interrelated. So the past is always present in some way. The future is always present in some way. And we live in the basic kind of antagonism that those three things create. Go for it.
Yeah, and also it's interesting to do the same technique of becoming present, but focusing entirely on your past. That's a nice little way to jerk out some memories.
Yeah.
If somebody doesn't have a lot of them.
And by the way, the Hegel, which I was talking about, sense-certainty, this is the precursor to psychoanalysis, because psychoanalysis and depth psychology, I think to the same kind of degree, is all about making space for the thing that isn't there, which is called the repressed, right? So Hegel is saying that whenever you try to live in the present, there's something excluded. You kind of exclude your past, you exclude the future, you're excluding something, and that excluded thing always returns. It always comes back in some way. And if it's not healthy, it's unhealthy. Freud later comes along and he calls that excluded dimension the repressed. And he says the repressed is what it's a type of trauma, a type of nothingness that you try to exclude from the present. But if you exclude that dimension from the present, it will return in a violent and unhealthy way. So psychoanalysis developed from German idealism as a technology to enable you to weave nothingness, to weave the kind of what you're trying to exclude into your present.
Lovely.
Yeah. So that's why I think that therapeutic processes that are all about living in the present are ultimately fail, because the one thing you exclude is the repressed, and actually the repressed is what you want to bring. So the repressed from your past, you want to bring into your present.
I like the way you say exclude.
Oh, thank you.
Nice.
Is it? Oh.
Exclude. Yeah, that's exactly it. I think that's a lovely summation of everything I think that we were talking about. I gotta get into Hegel. I know I gotta get into Hegel. I don't know. What am I doing? I'm not doing Hegel right now. I definitely need to do Hegel because he comes up all the time in my readings, but I don't have any kind of understanding that's any real solid foundation on.
By the way, I'm going to start maybe do a course on Hegel at some point in the near future. So
if you want to give me the bullet points, no, I need to learn it on my own, Elliott. Hey.
You have to play your own violin.
Thank you so much. Do you want to Venmo me $50 and I'll do Red Snake for you in Vegas?
Yes, I do. Oh, absolutely.
You can even Venmo me
$1,000, $10,000.
If well, maybe not.
Yeah.
Don't Venmo me that.
I think $50 on.
Let's start with 10.
I think I'll have to do $50 on, maybe $50 on like 5 red snakes.
Okay.
$10 a pop.
Okay.
I want 5 red snakes.
Oh, easy.
Okay.
Consider it done.
Brilliant.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Take
Enjoy
care.
your time, and don't forget to stay not present.